Okay. Good evening and welcome to the City of Palm Coast Hybrid March 17, 2021 Planning and Land Development Regulation Board meeting. Due to the current threat of COVID-19, the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board is meeting via a hybrid process as prescribed by City Council. This meeting is being held in person with limited attendance as recommended by the Centers for Disease Control and by CMT virtual attendance. Notice that this meeting was going to be held by Communication Media Technology along with a physical location was posted on the city's website. The notice provided that those members of the public needing reasonable accommodation to participate in the meeting should contact the city clerk for assistance by noon on Monday, March 15, 2021. Access to this meeting is being provided via live stream on the city's website at www.palmcoastgov.com and at 386-223-1690. Should technological difficulties arise, the chair may recess or adjourn the meeting and advise of a time to reconvene or reschedule the meeting. If you are having problems connecting or need technical assistance, please call 386-986-2391. Public participation will work as follows. The chair will call for public participation. Those in physical attendance will be given the opportunity to address the PLDRB members by approaching the podium. When no further in-person attendees approach the podium, the chair will then call for public participation from callers that are on the line to address the board. For all callers, prior to calling in with your comments, if you are watching the meeting from our website, please mute your computer so when you call in with your comments, there is no interference. To participate via phone, please call 386-223-1690. You will need to hit *9 to raise your hand to provide your comments when you like to speak during public participation. You will be acknowledged by being unmuted, and you will hear a message that you have been unmuted. Please begin by stating your name clearly and slowly for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak. When there's 15 seconds left of your 3 minutes, you'll hear a beep, and at the end of your 3 minutes, you'll hear another beep, and you will be muted at that time. You will not be disconnected from the meeting. All callers will have the opportunity to speak. Please be aware there may be a short pause as we switch to the next caller. Today is March 17, 2021. It's approximately 5:30 p.m. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Irene, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. D. Maria.
Here.
Mrs. Lucas.
Here.
Mr. Albano.
Here.
Mr. Scully.
Here.
Ms. Shank is excused. Mr. Lemon.
Here.
Ms. Bott is excused. Ms. Nicholson.
Here.
Mr. Hilton.
Here.
Chairperson, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Irene. First item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the February 17th, 2021 meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? If none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Irene, would you call the roll?
Mr. Albano.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Hilton.
Yes.
Mr. Scully.
Yes.
Mr. Lemon.
Yes.
Mr. D. Maria.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I apologize, I had Ms. Smith. Okay. Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. Item number 2 is the Overlord Tattoo Studio Special Exception. It's application number 4659. Mr. Tyner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. This is a special exception for body piercing and other body parts. It's required a special exception in our COM2 zoning district, and Mr. Hoover, senior planner, will have the staff presentation.
Good evening, planning board members. The Overlord Tattoo Studio and Art Gallery is proposed at 107 Old Kings Road North, Suite 2 at the Palm Harbor Commercial Center. The applicants requested a special exception for tattooing, body piercing, and other body arts in the general commercial or COM2 zoning district. The art gallery use is already a permitted use in the general commercial district, so it's not part of the request. The site is in the middle of the screen there, and all nearby areas are designated mixed use, which is red. You can see the interstate area that's where the ramps are for I-95 in blue. The site and all neighboring properties are also zoned general commercial COM2. The general commercial area allows tattoo studios as a special exception, whereas if this was high-intensity commercial, which you can see a little bit there on the very east side of the screen in the burgundy color, that allows it as a permitted use. This is sort of a picture to show you where it would be located. I think Staples on the right-hand side, most of us are familiar with. And I showed you where Suite 2 is to the left. I think it's to the right of the Genesis Hair Salon. The requirement for a special exception requires an analysis to be done per section 2.0703 of the Land Development Code. There's 3 criteria. Is it consistent with the specific requirements for that particular use as set forth in this LDC? The large retail and commercial services site has already been developed under all applicable standards of the general commercial district in the Land Development Code. In addition, in Chapter 4, we don't have any specific standards that a tattoo parlor would have to meet in addition to that. B, the concurrency requirements of the Land Development Code. In essence, this doesn't really apply because the shopping center was already built. However, there's all the essential services are already there. C, is it compatible with surrounding neighborhoods and promotes the value of surrounding land, structures, or buildings. The center's got a wide variety of commercial uses that have been functioning well together. Probably more importantly, the unit is very distant from any residential uses. The applicant met the 14-day requirement of sending certified mail to neighboring properties for tonight's planning board public hearing. Staff has received no comments for or against the project from the public. Planning staff recommends that the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board approve Overlord Tattoo Studio application number 4659 to allow a special exception for tattooing, body piercing, and other body art. Questions for Steph? I'm welcome. The applicants are here, sitting to my left. The gentleman's name is Ettore Beckis.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Ettore Beckis.
You're the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. And you have a presentation?
I don't have. Do you have any question for me? I don't have any question.
I mean, you want to speak. That's all that's important. So go ahead.
I mean, I don't know. I'm tattooing from 19 years, and I'm almost 50 years old. This year, I'm going to be 50, and I decided to move in Parkway from Miami. I'm Italian, so I get the green card in 2014. 2016, I get the O1 visa in 2014, and then the green card. And I decided with my wife to buy a house in Park Coast because we were looking for a beautiful place to live, and that's why we are here.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No? Well, I'm going to ask the board, if that's the end of your presentation, does the board have any questions of the staff or applicant? Yes,
I
Ms.
do
Lucas.
have one question. Under the staff findings, there was a line that I wanted some clarification on. It said that the proposed use will provide a personal service that is not overly abundant in Palm Coast. Could you define that for me? How many tattoo parlors are there, and what does overly abundant mean?
Yeah, the point was From what we have heard, there's not a large number of these in Palm Coast compared to other cities of similar size. Even though you've seen a couple other ones over the last 6 months, I don't think there's any others in town besides these 3 that I know of.
Okay, I thought that there were several over the last maybe 2 years.
Yeah, last month we had one, and the other one was 4 or 5 months ago, I think, in the fall.
Yeah, there was another one, Sybil, a couple of years back, but they actually never opened.
They didn't, okay. That was my only question. I wanted to define overly abundant. Thank you and good luck to you.
That's it.
Okay, any other questions from the board? All right, hearing none, we will open it for public comment. If you want to speak, you can sit down if you want.
If I want to speak, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you say. Can you
But
repeat, please?
if you're done, you can sit down.
All
We're
right,
going to
all
open
right,
up the
thank you.
public comment,
All right,
sorry.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
If there's any public comment on this item, please come forward, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to address the board. All right, seeing no one step forward, is there any public comment online? Okay, no public comment online, we'll bring it back to the board for whatever action the board may deem appropriate.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for approval of application number 4659 to allow special exception for tattoo and body piercing and other body art.
All right, there's a motion to approve, is there a second?
Yes,
I'll
second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Irene, would you call the roll?
Mr. Albano,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas,
Yes.
Mr. Hilton,
Yes.
Mr. Scully,
Yes.
Mr. Lemon,
Yes.
Mr. Di Maria,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes,
The motion carries 7-0.
thank you very much. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Robson.
Good luck.
Next item is item number 3, Point Grand Apartments Master Site Plan, application 4633. Mr. Tyner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a property, a proposal for a master site plan for approximately 300 units. The property is zoned multifamily 2, and staff, it meets the requirements of the Land Development Code and the MFR2 zoning district. Mr. Hoover will have the staff presentation.
Good evening again. The Point Grand is a multifamily project located on about 157.5 acres on the northwest side of Pine Lakes Parkway North, and it's about halfway between Palm Coast Parkway and Belterre Parkway. So even though the parcel is very large, the applicant has the area there in the development area, so it's sort of the east and northeast portion of the site. There's a lot of wetlands on the area directly to the west of it. It's proposed for 300 multifamily homes. This is a Tier 3 master site plan, so because it's over 100 units, then it goes to the planning board initially, which makes a recommendation, followed by going to the city council. The red area on the screen is you can see the development area there. It's mixed use as well as land to the east. To the north in the royal blue is institutional, and up there's some ball fields and a church. To the west of that, in the hatched area, is DRI mixed use, and then the lime green area is conservation. So as we're going around here counterclockwise, south of the site is mixed use with some conservation, and then everything to the southeast and east is yellow, which is residential. The site zoning is multifamily residential 2. You'll see that there's a couple of shared access roads that will go with the future general commercial that lies between the site and Pine Lakes Parkway. So the site has 2 zonings. To the north in the royal blue is master plan development, which is the Palm Coast Park MPD and also DRI. The lime green area to the north is parks and greenways. To the east is a master plan development zoning. And then directly to the east, southeast, and south is a single-family residential 3 in the gold area, and some of that where it's a little more orange or bronze, that's a single-family residential 2. Directly south of the site is that a self-storage facility. That's high-intensity commercial or COM3. And then further to the south, as you get towards Palm Coast Parkway, you've got the general commercial COM2, and you'll see a few light blue areas there. Those are public, semi-public. This is the master site plan. Pine Lakes Parkway is on the bottom, and the north arrow is going to the upper right. There's 9 3-story buildings. Their clubhouse is located by the roundabout in the left-hand side of the development area. And the main access comes in and goes down to, I believe that's Brushwood Lane. So one of the things that I should point out, there's 2 units that back up to the commercial area. Those units will be about 500 feet from the closest single-family home across there. So the commercial's about 400 feet deep. We have a 100-foot right-of-way, and then there's about a 10 or 20-foot setback. So you got about 500 feet there. The commercial area will not be taking their trees down until it gets developed in the future. So that could be a couple of years, or it could be 15 years. So that will provide a very good buffer between the single-family homes across the street. You can also see north of the site is a large wetland area, as well as to the west of the multifamily buildings. And that's part of the Hewlett Branch Swamp. Directly to the east is another apartment complex. I think that might be called Pine Lakes Apartment. It's been there for a long time, actually has a very good reputation. These are the site development requirements. A minimum project size for multifamily residential 2, which is our higher intensity multifamily district. It allows 12 units an acre. The minimum project size is 4 acres. They're at almost 35. Maximum building height is 60 feet. They're at 42 feet and 9 inches. On parking, all the units are 2-story in this, I'm sorry, not 2-story, 2-bedroom units. So that requires 2 parking spaces per unit, and then they got a clubhouse that they're providing 20 more parking spaces for. So altogether, they'll have 620 parking spaces, of which 12 of those will be will meet the American Disabilities Act, and then there will also be included in the 620 spaces, 100 of those will be garage parking spaces. So 1/3 of multifamily units require garages unless there's an MPD with an exception on it. The minimum living area for homes in the MFR2 zoning district is 650 square feet. They have 2 sizes of units, 1,107 square feet and 1,153 square feet. This is the architectural elevation of, I would call that a light tan colored building, and then they have a 2-tone building, and you can see it right there. These are the 5 review criteria you get to hear from almost on every project. In this case, we're reviewing the master site plan is analyzed for these. A, must not be in conflict with the public interest. B, the project has to be consistent with both the comprehensive plan and the land development code. It must not impose a significant hardship or liability on the city. D must not create an unreasonable hazard or nuisance, and E needs to comply with all applicable government standards, including local, state, and federal. Planning staff reviewed these 5 criteria, and we have detailed findings in our staff report. In brief summary, the master site plan will not create a nuisance, hazard, or any compatibility issues as it meets all development standards and is in compliance with its mixed-use designation on the future land use map. Development already has needed infrastructure in place to serve it along Pine Lakes Parkway. The comprehensive plan, the project will support 3 policies, goals, or objectives from the comprehensive plan, and it meets all standards of the multifamily residential 2 district and the land development code. The applicant mailed out letters on February 22nd advising neighbors within 300 feet of the project's boundaries of the neighborhood meeting. The meeting was held March 9th at the Days Inn Conference Room, which is on North Garden Street, just north of Home Depot. It was at 5:30. Staff and 6 members from the development team were there. However, no neighbors attended the meeting. Okay, the master site plan, you'll make a recommendation. It'll go to City Council. Presuming that is approved, the applicant's engineer would submit a technical site plan, and what they do on that is they'll add a lot more engineering details, such as, like right now, we're sort of showing stuff above ground. The engineer's going to show grading, utilities, and the stuff underneath the ground as well. Once the technical site plan is administratively reviewed by staff and approved, they can apply for building permits and then start construction. Planning staff recommends that the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board find this in compliance with the comprehensive plan and recommend approval to City Council for application 4633 Point Grand Apartments, a master site plan for 300 homes, so the developer may apply for a technical site plan that would need to meet all applicable development requirements and subject to the following 3 conditions. 1, for the technical site plan, applicant's engineer shall provide vehicle use area calculations on the site and landscape plans. 2, for the technical site plans, applicant's landscape architect shall provide shade and understory trees, each spaced at about 1 tree per 50 linear feet along the 2 shared entry roads as they travel next to the commercial areas on the landscape plans. And 3, school concurrency shall be met during the technical site plan process. Applicants' representatives are in attendance, and they do have a PowerPoint presentation.
All right, can the applicant begin their presentation?
Good evening, Shannon Acevedo with Matthews Design Group for the record. Our applicant's Hill Point, and I also have Chris Buttermore, the engineer and project manager for this project as well. So thank you for the comprehensive staff presentation. I'll try not to duplicate too much, but as Mr. Hoover described, this is a large parent site of over 150 acres. And then if you could please click once. That is the area that we're looking at today for the apartment community. And that area is the 34.64 acre site subject to the multifamily development. Okay. So just to kind of give you an idea of the aerial, there is, as mentioned, an expansive buffer around the development area. And of course, this works well with the existing zoning since we're working only within the MFR zoning for the multifamily, and the commercial would be developed in the future. So the gross density for this is about 8.7 dwelling units if you're looking in total for that 34.64 acre area. That's a building footprint of only about 9%, and that's because these are 3-story developments, which brings the floor area ratio to about 24%. ISR is also very low at 37%, as you can see.
Excuse me, ISR is?
I'm sorry, impervious surface ratio.
Gotcha.
So looking at the pavements and structures versus the green spaces.
Drainage calcs.
And as mentioned earlier, it is about 400 feet of depth into the site before you get to that multifamily from Pine Lakes Parkway. And just to kind of give you an idea, I know Mr. Hoover explained that this would remain uncleared until the commercial is ready to develop. This just gives you an idea of what that looks like today. So if you can imagine, the apartment buildings would be about 400 feet beyond where you see that green buffer today. And because it's sometimes a little bit difficult to see in black and white, I thought this might be a little bit helpful just to kind of get an idea of that impervious surface ratio. So this shows you in color where all those green spaces are, and it really brings to light how concentrated and focused the apartment community would be within the site. We were going for a very compact, efficient design so that we could maximize on that green space around it. Also, just a couple clicks here. That first one, just wanted to point out a couple amenities. We're looking at a dog park or tot light type of amenity there to the east. And then if you could click one more time, that's where the amenity center and pool area is going to go. So it's going to be near the entry when you first come right onto that from the boulevard to the roundabout to have a sort of sense of arrival for the development. And I did want to talk just a little bit about traffic and transportation. We are looking at the full access at that southern driveway, and there will be a secondary access about 850 feet away, as you can see. The level of services are to remain at the current standard for the city of Palm Coast. And in order to manage having those fluid traffic patterns with this development, we are looking at turn lanes, as you can see there from the diagram, the left turns and the right coming in. For safety, we're also, just wanted to point out, it's a little bit hard to see, but there is a mid-block pedestrian crossing near Brookside Lane that's in a little bit of an awkward place. So one thing we're looking at is moving that to be probably, I'm thinking the best spot would be along the main entrance where Brushwood Lane is, but we're looking at either of those entrances, moving it to be a little bit more safe and efficient. And last slide, just you saw these already, but I wanted to give you an idea of what we're going for with the look and feel here. As was mentioned earlier, exclusively 2-bedroom units and 3-story structures. That concludes my presentation, unless the board has any questions.
All right, thank you. Back to the board. Are there any questions of the applicant or the staff?
Yes, I have one, if I may.
Here, go ahead.
I noted in the paperwork that no one attended the public hearing, and yet letters were sent out to properties within 300 feet of the proposed development. How many letters or homes are actually within 300 feet of this development?
Oh, I'm not sure I have
So how
that.
many letters actually went out?
I think they mailed out, I think I created the list, I think it's over 30 neighbors that were notified.
And you received no response at all?
No.
No one called us and no one attended the neighborhood meeting.
Did you find that concerning at all? Or was that an implication that no one had concerns?
I think part of that was every time I've worked on something here in my 6.5 years, and we talked about apartments, we always heard that Pine Lakes apartment is such a good neighbor up there And I think if Pine Lakes Apartments was creating a lot of issues in the neighborhood, then people would not, they'd be out here letting everyone know that. But because that apartment complex has done so well, that's helped a lot. The letter to the neighbors did point out with the site plan that the homes would be back 400 feet from Pine Lakes Parkway. So I think the fact that that big distance is there with the trees remaining is a huge factor for people.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoover, I have one question. I just want to make sure that whenever the commercial areas are brought back to the city, that still comes back to the board. This doesn't really cover them.
Right, so the one in front of the project is about 7 acres, and the other one is about 4 acres. So if they both came in at the same time, 11 acres, that's probably, I would expect fully that would be at least 40,000 square feet, and so it would come back to the planning board. And if they came in at over 100,000, it would also go to the city council.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question.
I don't know if that's an artificial property line between the apartments and the commercial, or is that an arbitrary line that you created because it's one big development parcel, or is that already been broken out as far as what's allowed, that strip of commercial that is on the roadside before the MFRP 2?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that property inset boundary you saw was something we created for this particular project. And that the southern line follows the zoning district line.
Okay.
And we actually have a lot split application in-house that they're actually going to split it.
Okay, thank you.
We have one other question, I know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Couple questions. It's gonna be gated?
I don't think so. We haven't talked about that.
So there's no
yet,
age
but
requirement?
Not to my knowledge.
No age requirement?
No, not
Okay. And market value rate for the rent?
Yeah, I think, I'm Chris Buttermore with Matthews Design Group. Good evening, board. I think the intent with the developer is like workforce housing. So workforce housing.
Workforce
rate,
housing?
yeah, so, market rate. I don't think they're looking at luxury apartments or anything.
Yeah, I had one. Oh, sorry, were you done?
Go ahead, Josh, that's
Okay. It's for Mr. Hoover, the conditions for approval, and this is probably a learning thing for me, but items 1 and 3, are those not normally always in the technical site review, or the school concurrency and the vehicular use calculations?
I didn't hear that. I know it's about school concurrency.
Yeah, I was asking if there's 3 recommended conditions. Item 2 is very specific to this, so that makes sense to me. Items 1 and 3, are they not normally part of the technical site stage?
The vehicle use area, that was just sort of a glitch, and it was missing from the master site plan. And that's what the landscape architect, so as far as internal landscaping on a commercial or multifamily project, if you've got 100,000 square feet of vehicle use area, which is the paved area, then 10% of that has to be created as landscape islands inside of that. So that's what that number's for. And that's something that we just wanted to make sure it was going to be on the technical site plan that would follow. And on the school concurrency, they've already submitted the stuff to the school, and part of that, I believe, was requested to be put on there was the city council has some concerns on school capacity coming up down the road because of a large volume of residential projects coming through the process. And so we wanted to emphasize that they have applied for the stuff so far, and then when we get to the technical site plan, they will have to meet that concurrency. which I don't expect that to be a problem, but they will have to meet that.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you. We'll open it up to public comment for this item. Again, if you wish to comment on this item, come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? All right, seeing none here in attendance, are there any online speakers? None at all? Okay, we'll close the public comment and come back to the board for action. Anybody wish to make a motion?
Motion to approve?
Yeah, the motion to approve, and that
includes.
I want to make sure that includes compliance with the comprehensive plan.
With the condition.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Irene, would you call the roll?
Mr. Albano,
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas,
Yes.
Mr. Hilton,
Yes.
Mr. Scully,
Yes.
Mr. Lemon,
Yes.
Mr. Di Maria,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
The motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 4, future land use map amendment for 3.8 acres from Flagler County designation of commercial high intensity to City of Palm Coast designation of mixed use. Mr. Tyner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These next two items, if that's okay, Jose will do one presentation because they're both companion for the comprehensive plan and the
That's fine.
zoning change. Just a brief summary. When lands are annexed into the City of Palm Coast, they have their county designation for their future land use and their zoning. So basically, they have annexed into the City of Palm Coast, and we are just putting on the equivalent future land use designation and the zoning designation. So with that, Mr. Papa will have the presentation.
We will have one presentation, but we will have to vote on them separately. So go ahead, Mr. Papa.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Jose Papa for the Community Development Department. Start off with the future land use map amendment. The subject property is better known as Airport Commons. It's about a 3.8 acre parcel located at the southeast corner of Moody Boulevard and Airport Road. This parcel was annexed into the city, became effective in January of 2021. It is developed as a retail center, one of the newer retail centers we have in the county. The actions here tonight includes a future land use map amendment. The subject parcel, as you can see up there, is designated as commercial high intensity. That's the Flagler County designation. And it is proposed that it takes on the City of Palm Coast designation of mixed use. The second part of the action item that we have here is that currently the subject parcel is zoned as Flagler County designation of commercial 2, and it is proposed that the new zoning designation would be that of the City of Palm Coast zoning designation of commercial 2. So again, as Mr. Tyner mentioned in his introduction, the most equivalent future land use map designation from county to city and zoning from county to city. So looking at the future land use map amendment, looking at one of the things we do whenever we have a future land use map amendment is we look at its impact on public facilities. And looking at the flume designation, the city's flume designation has a slightly higher development maximum than existing flume designation, which would account for, if it was a green site with no development on it, the development potential would be slightly higher under the city's flume designation. But as a developed site, there will be no additional impact on public facilities. Environmental impact analysis, again, as a developed site, the proposed amendment will not have significant impact on the environmental conditions on the subject property. It's developed, you see the areas that are to be impacted already are already on the ground. and its consistency with the surrounding land uses. It's generally consistent with the surrounding land uses. You see mixed use, which is red, to the north and northeast. You have industrial to the south of it, and to the west of it, that's really the airport property. To the east of it is something that's sort of an anomaly. It's a parcel that's still zoned agriculture and timberlands. It's probably just been developed for a long time, and if looking at the aerial, it's probably been there a long time and was developed probably during the time when most of Flagler County was designated as ag and timberlands. But when I get to the surrounding uses, we'll see that the uses on our subject property, which is Airport Commons, is really not that inconsistent with what you find on that parcel to the east. Oh, and it's right here, I'm sorry. That the agriculture and timberlands parcel is currently developed really with storage, office, and residential use. So there's a residential component there, but also really a non-residential component consistent with the Airport Commons parcel. So looking at its consistency with comprehensive plan policies, city has policies that we shall provide appropriate balance of commercial, retail, office, and industrial land use on the future land use map to balance jobs and housing. Appropriately, Airport Commons parcel is located on State Road 100, adjacent to the airport, so it is appropriate for the uses that are found on it. There are also various policies in the comprehensive plan promoting urban densities and intensities where utilities are available, such as this site where Airport Commons is. And so again, under the proposed amendment, not only is it really a housekeeping item, but the proposed amendment will protect the existing commercial uses that are on that property. And again, that site is adjacent to existing water and sewer service. So under the findings, again, no significant impact on level of service for public infrastructure, since it's already a developed site. No additional impact on environmental conditions. It is consistent with surrounding land uses, and it is consistent with policies in the comprehensive plan. So staff is recommending that the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board recommend that City Council approve application 4604, which is a future land use map amendment from Flagler County designation of commercial high intensity to City of Palm Coast designation of mixed use. Looking at the second part of the action item tonight, which is the zoning map amendment. Again, the subject parcel is zoned Flagler County designation right now of commercial 2, and it's proposed, or the most equivalent zoning designation we have in our land development code is general commercial, or COM2. So looking at the findings, again, there are criteria that we have to meet whenever we consider a zoning map amendment. Looking at the criteria for consistency with a comprehensive plan, I think we've demonstrated that it's consistent with policies for infrastructure availability and protecting for the balance of uses between commercial and residential throughout the city. It is consistent with the criteria on additional impacts to the natural environment. Again, it's a developed site, and so no additional impacts would be expected on the site. And again, the impact on public facilities, no additional impact as a developed site. Its impact on the economy, the designation that we are providing, the COM2 zoning designation and the mixed use future land use map designation protects the existing commercial uses on that site. And any changes in circumstances or conditions is a criteria of a zoning map amendment. The annexation of the parcel into the city limits necessitates the amendments that we have before us tonight. And again, compatibility with proximate uses and development patterns. Looking at similar parcels along State Road 100, I think the uses that you'll find on this site and its zoning designation is consistent with other similarly situated parcels. And does it accomplish a legitimate public purpose? Judging by the number of cars that are on the site already, and I think it's still half vacant, it's appropriate to protect the commercial uses that are found there and make sure that it can continue to function as a service area for residents of Palm Coast and Flagler County. So at this time, staff is recommending that the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board recommend that City Council approve application 4605, which is a zoning map amendment from the Flagler County designation of Commercial 2 to City of Palm Coast designation of General Commercial. And of course, the next steps after, if the Planning Board approves both items, is that we go to City Council for 2 public hearings. Oops, pushing the wrong keyboard.
All right, thank you, Mr. Papa. Is the applicant in attendance, or do they have a presentation?
This is a city-initiated.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, sir, yes.
So you are the applicant. All right. Thank you very much. We're going to separate these two now because, well, wait a minute, let me back up. Are there any questions of the staff before we move forward?
I have a question just for my own edification, Dean. You said that the sewer system and utilities were available, but are they Flagler County utilities or are they
Sure.
Palm Coast?
Yeah, the site is served water-wise by the city,
Okay.
while sewer, they are a bulk customer of Flagler County.
Oh,
But it is there.
I see.
Yes, sir. And that's under the pre-annexation agreement that was agreed to by Flagler County, city, and the developer.
Any other questions?
How far west is this property from Airport Commons? Does it go all the way to Harbor Plumbing? Because I saw where you mentioned that the ag timber had some storage and other buildings, but I don't remember seeing anything between Harbor Plumbing and west.
No, there's nothing between there, sir, yes. It is directly adjacent. It does abut that property.
I'll say, this is where Planet Fitness is right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of the staff? All right, seeing none, we're going to open it up to the public, but we're going to do it item by item. So for item 4, future land use amendment, is there any member of the public that wishes to speak? Seeing none, are there any online?
No.
None? All right. Back to the board then for item 4 only, the future land use amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to the approval of app number 4604, land amendment with the 3.8 acres from Flagler County designation of commercial to high destiny to City of Palm Coast designation of mixed use.
All right, is there a second?
Second?
All right, there's a second. Irene, would you call the roll?
Mr. Albano?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Hilton?
Yes.
Mr. Scully?
Yes.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Mr. Di Maria?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. Item 4 is approved. Now we'll open up the public comment on item 4, which is a zoning map amendment. Is there any member of the public in attendance that wishes to speak on this matter? All right, seeing none, are there any online? Okay, none online. Back to the board for whatever action you may want to take.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve app number 4605, a zone map amendment from Flagler County designation of Commercial 2 to the City of Palm Coast designation of General Commercial, column number 2.
All right, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Lucas, seconds. All right, Irene, would you please call the roll?
I'm sorry to jump in, and the motion is to recommend approval, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It should be
Yes.
to recommend approval.
Recommend approval, yeah.
Pardon me, thank you.
Mr. Albano?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Hilton?
Yes.
Mr. Scully?
Yes.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Mr. Di Maria?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you very much. That's all our agenda items. Does the board or staff have anything they'd like to discuss?
Yeah, I do, and I don't want to keep people from their corned beef and cabbage except for myself. Regarding in the LDC 3.0304 Master Plan Development Zoning District, the Section J about the existing golf course communities caused us all a lot of time in this room and other rooms. And part of the reason I feel, and opening up for discussion, is that it does not provide the kind of clarity to the abutting neighbors nor the landowner, nor the prospective developer as to what is or was a golf course. So this refers to existing golf course communities, existing golf course features like fairways and clubhouses, and when in fact, as we all saw with the L section thing, that was a subject of a lot of debate. And I would like to recommend that the staff take a look at that section J and try to come up with some wording that protects the neighborhoods, but also makes the expectations clear to the existing landowners and prospective developers should a golf course decide not to be a golf course anymore. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I think I would agree with that. I think there are other golf courses in our community that could end up in the same boat as the one at Matanzas. So I think a little more clarity would be helpful for not only the board and the city council, but also the staff and the residents around the golf course to help them understand that a little bit better. Is that something we can start working on?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think we can. I mean, we are extremely busy right now. We're short-staffed. I hate to be whiny, but we're probably one of the busiest I think we've been. We've got 2 planners on staff. Municipalities our side typically have 4 or 5. So we are extremely busy. I can't promise you we're going to have it next month. But I also would like to make a suggestion that, like we did for the Land Development Code and revisions, I think it would be very helpful to maybe Mr. Scully, if he would volunteer, to kind of be the planning board liaison for this subject. And then we can work kind of together, and maybe staff can draft some things up and talk to Mr. Scully about it, and then bring it to a workshop or something like that. Because I thought that worked great. You know, when some of the members weren't here, but when we started doing the Land Development Code and certain sections of the Land Development Code, we would have, you know, certain planning board members being kind of a liaison with us, with the stakeholders, to go through that process.
I'm
If
sure
it's okay
Mr.
with
Scully
Mr.
would be
Scully.
happy to do that.
Well, I got plenty of time.
We all got time, right? Yeah.
Unless anybody feels, you know, strongly that their level of expertise in this, you know, I'd gladly step aside, but I'm not seeing any comers. Okay.
No,
Yeah, I'll
you're
do
it.
Great, thanks.
Anything else from either the board or the staff? Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second? Mrs. Lucas. All right. Irene, if you call the roll, please.
Mr. Albano?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Hilton? Yes. Mr. Scully?
Yes.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Mr. Di Maria?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Happy St. Patty's.